What's good out there, Liquid Trucking, and welcome into episode 47 of the Liquid Trucking Podcast. I am your host, Marcus, and very happy to have you all here. As always, this week we're doing another fun one. Actually, this one is a driver-suggested one, just like our episode was last week. And our driver today, Matthew Langford, will join us a little bit later here on the show. He is the recipient of 50,000 driver gold points. Hey, if you've got something that you want to talk about or you want to hear here on the podcast, go ahead and send us an email, podcast@liquidtrucking.com. I might be sending you guys out another text message to see if any of you have any ideas for me, but we actually have to work our way through a lot of the ones that we got when we sent out that first text message to all you drivers out there, because we did come away with a couple of handfuls of really good ideas and things that we can make into some episodes. So we're going to be doling out the driver gold points as we go through those. As your episode is selected, I'll let Jason know. He'll give me the okay or the not okay, and then we'll go ahead and give you the points if we end up doing the episode. So it works out pretty well. We got two drivers already swimming in their points. We'll definitely see if Matthew has spent those yet, because that was one thing that was kind of funny last week. We asked Damon if those points were there, and he said those points were there, but they're gone already, and that's what I like to hear. You guys, you know, if there's anything that we can do on this podcast to give you any incentive to come on here or help us out with content or just listen more, I'm totally all about it, and really want to say thanks to the management staff there at Liquid Trucking for giving us the opportunity to dish out these points to drivers that are helping us out. So keep your ideas coming. As always, I've said this 1,000 times now. If you've got my phone number, just go ahead and text them to me. But if not, and you can't find one of these drivers that does have my phone number, go ahead and send me an email. Again, podcast@liquidtrucking.com. Oh, I got a little bit of a yawn here. Hang on. Yeah, that was a big one. I don't even know where that came from. Thank you for being a cough button there. That's really nice. You know, just in case some of you wonder how it is that people that talk into microphones for a living, whether it be on TV or radio, if you're wondering how we do it without ever like choking or coughing or yawning or sneezing, well, we have this cool little button here, and basically it functions as a mute button for whenever I don't hear what I'm saying. See how that goes there? Pretty cool. If you were watching that on the video, you would have seen that I wasn't just cutting out and stopping talking. I was talking right through that using my cough button here, which, hey, I know it's simple, but once again, I'm fascinated with my job, and sometimes I want to tell you guys, give you a little peek behind the curtain, you know, just a little behind the scenes on how we do things here. You don't have to hear my yawns and chokes and sneezes and farts because of that cough button, so it's a big part of this podcast. And what's this podcast about today? We said it was a driver suggestion, but we haven't really touched on what's actually happening. Well, it's an exciting subject because it's about where you take your 34. That was what Matthew sent in to us when we sent that text message out. He said, I want to hear from other drivers and where they take their 34s. I like to get out on my 34 and do a little bit of exploring around wherever I'm at. I've got a couple of spots that I favor, and I would like to hear from some other drivers that have spots that they favor. I knew the perfect guy to get on the phone to talk to Matt Langford about this, and it was Matt MacKellar. I got my two Matts. I've said it before on this podcast. Matt MacKellar, he's joined us a bunch on here, talked a lot to us about some of the vacations he's taken that were bought and paid for with liquid money. Not liquid money. They were bought and paid for with money he earned from Liquid. Let's put it that way. I don't want to confuse anybody here. But he's also told us many times on this show about how he likes to get out and take a hike. He likes to get out in nature. He lives in his truck. He doesn't have an actual address there. So, when he's off, he's still in the truck. And Matt has a bunch of really good little gems that he's going to share with you coming up here in just a few minutes. So I'll get my two Matts on. You know, I can't believe it. I don't remember if I've actually said this to him before, but I was a big Fraggle Rock kid. You guys remember Fraggle Rock? Down to Fraggle Rock. It was like a puppet show. It was like the low rent Sesame Street, okay? The puppets, the stories, they were all better. Everything about Fraggle Rock was awesome. It was funny. called Fraggles. I mean, come on. Like, what can you come up with a better? Don't bring Big Bird in here and tell me that Big Bird was creative when we're talking Fraggles, because I don't even know what those little things were. I just know they lived underground. There was a big trash monster, and there was also one guy that was my favorite character in the show. His name was Uncle Traveling Matt. And I often wonder if we should be calling Matt MacKellar Uncle Traveling Matt, because he does like to travel around. He's a long-haul truck driver, but he also likes to explore the things that he finds. And I don't think that I've brought that up to him before. Unfortunately, we've already recorded the interview, so next time I have Matt MacKellar on, he will hear this, and we'll have to address whether or not Uncle Traveling Matt is a good nickname for him or not. If not, I'm just going to bestow it upon Matthew Langford. I got 2 Matts to choose from here. I can't lose. But in the meantime, check out Fraggle Rock. If you're an adult in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you'll probably be a little disappointed, but you might enjoy it. It might strike a little bit of a nostalgia chord for you. I'm rambling at this point. Let's get Matts in here and talk about cool places to spend your 34.
Welcome to the gold standard of podcasts for the gold standard of drivers. This is the Liquid Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Next up here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast, I'm very excited to have a couple of Liquid drivers on board with me here. Now, here going back a few weeks, I sent out a message to you guys, you drivers, asking you for podcast content ideas, and you guys really delivered with those. We got a ton of them back. We're going to sort through them and get to as many of them as we think we can make into an episode. But joining me for this episode, I've got one of the gentlemen who we selected his topic right off the top. His name is Matt Langford. Matt, thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Of course. Now, one thing I got to check real quick. Have you already received your driver gold points?
Yes, I did.
Perfect.
Yes, I did. Thank you for that.
Hey,
great.
Don't thank me, man. Thank you for bringing us this awesome topic because, last week we did an episode about winter driving preparedness, and we had Damon come on and ask a bunch of questions and try to get his mind and his truck right for the impending winter. But it was a very serious conversation. There was a lot of things that we had to get to in that. And this one is not going to be quite as serious. This is one where we get to have a little bit of fun. I want to welcome on our second driver here, and I brought him on for a very specific purpose. You've met him before. His name is Matt MacKellar. Matt, thanks for being back with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Marcus.
Now, Matt and Matt, this is our first order of business here. I've got 2 guys on the phone that both go by Matt, and I'm wondering, is it a Matt 1 and Matt 2? Is one of you more comfortable with Matthew? Should I use last names or maybe CB handles? What do you guys think? Matt Langford, I'll start with you. Any ideas?
You can call me anything as long as it's not a 4-letter word. Well, I guess you can call me Matt as a 4-letter word. I can go by Matthew to minimize confusion.
Okay, very cool. What about you, Matt MacKellar? Do you have any ideas, or should we just go with Matthew and Matt?
Only my mother calls me Matthew, so calling me Matthew would be confusing. I would suddenly think I'm in trouble with my mother. So we could do Matthew and Matt, or Matt 1 and Matt 2. Langford can be number 1 since it was his idea. However, whatever works.
Okay, well, Matthew, since you were kind enough to agree to go by Matthew, I will address you as Matthew, Mr. Langford, and I'll address Mr. MacKellar as Matt. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for ironing that out with me. It's funny, Matt, that you say that because there is one person in the world that gets away with calling me Mark, aside from blood-related family members, and it's one of my oldest friends in the world, and even to this day at 40 years old, when she calls me Mark, it sends chills up my spine because I feel like I'm in trouble, just like you do, man. So I get that for sure. All right,
yeah,
fellas.
Something just resonates deep within when you hear that.
Yeah, it's very instinctual, almost like it was with me since birth. I don't know, but maybe I shouldn't have screwed up as much as a kid, and I wouldn't have gotten yelled at with that name as much. But hindsight's always 20/20. Let's not bark up that tree right now. Matthew, Why don't you
Yes.
walk us through the suggestion that you gave us? Because after all this, we've been sitting here talking for almost 4 minutes. We haven't even gotten to the subject of why you're here yet. So what did you send me back the other day? What was the topic?
It was, I wanted to hear some other drivers where their favorite places to take their restart on the road is at. I've got, several that I have in mind, but I'm pretty relaxed and simple. So it's not like, it's nothing exciting. Like I want to, I like to do it outside New York City or outside LA. Mine are pretty lame, but I like them.
Well, that's totally cool, and that's the reason that we decided this would be such a good episode, is because it doesn't matter what you suggest or what Matt suggests or anybody else. The likelihood is it's going to be a little bit different from what other drivers have done on their 34. So, what types of things do you like to get into out there, Matthew? You said outside New York, outside LA. Are those places that you've gone and spent some time, or?
I have, but I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, my biggest thing, I like to find someplace, as far as off the highway as I can, someplace quiet. I also like, I do a lot of walking. So most of these that are my favorites have, a trail beside them, or there's a park down the road, maybe it's by a river or a lake. Just some place where I can get out and go for a long walk in the mornings and just, you hear the highway, 55 hours a week. I just want peace and quiet when I'm on my restart.
I hear you. Well, great question, first off, because it's a question that every driver out there can answer. There's one thing that all the drivers are doing aside from driving, and that's resetting every now and then. And so I love that it's something that can, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, dang, I really wish I would have been on that episode, send us an email, podcast@liquidtrucking.com. Or, get over to the website there, navigate over there, podcast@liquidtrucking.com or podcast.liquidtrucking.com, and send us a message on what you do for your 34. We can definitely air some of those responses that we get. But, Matt, I brought you on here because I'm very familiar with how you spend your 34s. You and I have had a lot of conversations about it. And, it's even better now. I didn't know that Matthew was looking for a place where he could take a nice, quiet nature hike. But, Matt, that's like your whole deal, right? You're finding spots like this all over the country.
Yeah, I agree with Matthew on that a little nature is just good for you mentally and physically, and a good change of pace from driving. And so I definitely do that when I can. I also do take advantage of cities, and we can talk about that a little bit, but definitely some of the places I've found with some nature access are pretty cool. So I'd be interested in Matthew's pointers as well.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a few of them. What are some of your favorite spots, Matt, to get out and, find yourself a little nature hike that you can take when you're on your reset?
Let's see. There's a Love's in Holland, Michigan. It's outside of Ann Arbor. And there's a park down the road it's not crowded. There's nobody there. It goes around, there's a trail that goes around the lake. And it's probably about a mile long. But it's a newer Love's. It's off a little ways off the highway, so it's quieter. And then getting out in the trail and just, I probably need to start bringing my fishing pole because I do a lot of walks by the water. But and then I got to try to figure out how to get a driver or a fishing license for every different state I go to. But,
yeah, they ought to do something like that for you drivers. That's like a resident license where you just get to fish wherever you want to.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd take advantage of that.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people would.
Yeah, but my favorite place that, as far as hiking or walk. I don't really hike. I walk a lot. But in the Parachute, Colorado, there's a new Love's there right off I-70 in between Denver and Grand Junction, and they have if you go through walk through the town. You can end up on the south side of town, and the sidewalk follows this golf course up to the base of the mountains there, and it's so quiet. Obviously you're right in the middle of the Rockies, so you're up in the high elevation. The night skies is just amazing, and the scenery is just, that's what it's all about for me.
Oh, I bet, man. Those mountains out there in Colorado are something else, man. And I mean, you're talking to a guy that lives a stone's throw from the Cascade Range here in Oregon, and I got to tell you, the Colorado mountain ranges are a thing of beauty, man. And look, you're speaking my language too. Walking right next to a golf course. If there's any place that I want to be when I'm not golfing, it's watching other people golf. So that would be perfect. That sounds like a great couple of spots that you found. Are there any more that you like particularly?
Well, most of mine are like out west in the mountains or the desert. But my favorite one that I found, and this is why I brought the topic, is because I found this one. It wasn't in my GPS. I found it in a truck stop app, and so because it's off the highway, it's on like the loop. It's on I-90 in Livingston, Montana. It's called the Yellowstone Truck Stop. So there's always parking there. It's just a mom and pop place. They've got, you're several miles, 3 miles from the highway, so there's no noise. You have the beautiful mountain views. There's also a place called Rosa's, maybe, or Rosa's, something like Rosa's Pizza. Oh, that place is amazing. I try to, I pretty much, whenever I leave for a couple of weeks, I package up all my food at home and just put it in the freezer. So, but on my restart, that's the day that I let myself, get pizza or go out to eat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always like to try the local pizza places all over the country. And that one that it's called, I wish I could remember. I think it's called Rosa's Pizza. And but that is probably, I don't know if it was the altitude messing with me, my taste buds or what, but that was the best pizza I've ever had.
Well, it sounds like just a combination of all the good things. You're off the highway, so you've got no noise. There's plenty of parking. You're at a mom and pop stop, and you've got good pizza. You might as well just set up a tent and live there, Matthew. It sounds great.
But I was watching a documentary the other day, and I did learn that another famous person decided the same thing, to move to Livingston, but the Unabomber, that's where he lived, had.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, I know. I heard that on the documentary, and it kind of like shook me. I'm like, wait, what? Huh?
Dude, and then you have that thought too, like, I wonder if he liked Rosa's Pizza. Like,
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That sounds like you found some pretty good spots there. And Matt MacKellar, I'm assuming maybe you were taking some notes there, because I know that you're a nature walk guy. You're a hiker. You like to get out and see some scenery. And you've shown me some pretty cool pictures that you found in your adventures. But have you ever been to any of those places that Matthew was describing?
I have not been to them, but I was taking note of them, and I grew up in Michigan, so I was paying attention to the Michigan one, and I love Montana, so that one as well. So definitely some good ideas there.
Perfect. Well, what are some of your favorites, Matt, that you've come across in your travels?
Well, I guess I'll mention two. One of them, there's a Love's in Low Moor, Virginia, Moor, Moor, and it's if you go about a half a mile down the road from the truck stop, there's a little side road, and it cuts down by the river, and there's a park by the river. And there's not much hiking to do once you get there. So you got about, a little walk to get there and get back, but that's kind of it. But that is just this most beautiful river kind of rushing out of the mountains. And it's loud, so you don't really hear the traffic noise or anything like that. It's usually very quiet down there. So just a really nice spot to sit and ponder or fish, if you can figure that out, Matthew. But probably the best place that I've found so far is east of Gallup, New Mexico on I-40. There's a casino called Fire Rock Casino, and like a lot of casinos, they allow truck parking. So if you park there, and then if you walk, it's probably a good 1.5 2-mile walk east from there. There's a park called Red Rock Park, and it is like truly, genuinely hiking. Like you're hiking up this canyon, and there's some really great views and rock formations. And once you get to the top, you got a view down the canyon, and it's really quiet and just beautiful. Probably the most like serious hiking that I've been able to do, just putting my boots on in my truck and walking out the door.
Wow, that sounds awesome. And really, as far as convenience is concerned, it seems like you're not too far. If you find a place to park the truck, at a truck stop or wherever it may be. You said what, mile and a half walk to get to these little parks? That's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And then you do your walking around while you're there, and then you come back. And so, yeah, it's a big advantage. If I'm in an urban area, of course, I'll do some walking, but Uber can be helpful.
Yeah.
But if you get yourself where you're, used to walking a number of miles, then there's a lot of places you can get yourself just from the truck stop if you're willing to walk a couple of miles, which it sounds like Matthew does as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, real quick, Matt, before I go back to Matthew here, you sent me a badass picture of you standing like a titan on top of a mountain in southern Utah here recently. It's a really cool picture, beautiful sky, and then the landscape just kind of pours out beneath you. What was your trip to southern Utah like, man? It looked like you had a pretty good time out there.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a vacation and not something I did just on my reset, but
Right.
paid for with trucking money. So, there's that. And so that particular picture was taken at Bryce Canyon, which is my favorite. We went to, my girlfriend and I went out there, and we went to 5 different national parks and 2 state parks, and all of them beautiful. But my favorite is definitely Bryce, which is where that picture is from. Just gorgeous, but so different. We went to Zion, Capitol Reef, Arches, and then the Golden Spike National Monument. I guess that's a national monument, not a park.
Wow, that sounds like one heck of a trip, man. And the scenery you got to see out there. I mean, just some of God's country out there, I think is the way to put it. That's what they call those really big open spaces like that. That's God's country, right?
There you go. Yeah, we both, she flew in from Chicago, I flew from Omaha. We met up in Salt Lake City, rented a car, and then just drove. And the beautiful thing about out there is, like you're saying, just even the drive is beautiful, let alone when you get, into the particular national or state park.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And to any of you drivers that have my phone number, a lot of you guys text me on the regular. Man, if you go out on trips like this, if you take a vacation or maybe you find someplace cool on your 34, send it along to me because I'm always happy to share that type of stuff or talk about it on the podcast here as we are today. Matthew, I want to go back to you. Now, you said that you don't necessarily enjoy being in the big cities when you're ready to take your reset, but you did also say that you like to, when you take your reset, it's time to go out and find some good food. And it sounds to me like you're a real pizza guy. We already heard about Rosa's Pizza, but where's the other best pizza at? Like, when I think pizza, I think New York City. So is there any place over on that side of the country where you found good pizza, or are you kind of a West Coast pizza guy?
I'm a West Coast everything guy. However, there is a place, man, just put me on the spot. I can't remember, somewhere in Indiana, or no, it was in Ohio. But I'm always bugging my dispatcher. I love it in the mountains. I love going out west, and I love hearing about that one that Matt just talked about in New Mexico, because I can't count the number of times coming back from California and my clock's running out around Gallup area, and I don't still really like staying at Gallup, but there's not much past Gallup, and I didn't know about that casino with the Red Rock Trail. I'll definitely be keeping that in mind next time I'm coming back for a California run.
There you go. And if you got an extra 100 burning a hole in your pocket, you can go give that to the casino too. I mean, look at that. It's like 2 birds, 1 stone.
I've learned my lesson there. So.
Haven't we all, man? Haven't we all? Well, Matt, you did mention a couple. You said that there are some cities that you like to stop into. What ones come to mind when I'm asking you about what cities you like to be in when you're taking your 34?
Yeah, a couple come to mind, and I would encourage you, Matthew, like, I know what you mean about rest. What I've found is when I go into a city, I'll often find a museum or an art museum, and walk around there and then go get some food or find a brewery or something. And I find that very relaxing, even though you're in a city. The museum, the art museum is chill, and just find chill places to hang out. But some of my favorites, Flagstaff is awesome. There's also some good hiking around there. I've been able to do a reset outside of San Antonio, Texas, which was great. I took an Uber in and walked all up and down the river walk a whole bunch of times and heard some live music and got some good food and all of that. So that's been a lot of fun. I managed to do a reset in New Orleans once, so that was, of course, a whole lot of fun. But then one of the things, I guess one of the challenges that I like is when I end up in some random city, just finding something interesting in that particular city. And there's usually something. And like the app's TripAdvisor is really helpful. There's another one called Atlas Obscura that gives like random weird things that you can go see. And so this, just a quick example, this past weekend, I ended up in Davenport, Iowa, probably not at the top of a lot of people's vacation list.
Oh, what are you talking about? That's a bucket list place for me, man. I got to get to Davenport.
Bury me in Davenport. But yeah, looking at that Atlas Obscura app, I found there was a small museum dedicated to Bix Beiderbecke, which you may not know who that is, but he was an early jazz musician, a trumpeter in the 20s. Like he and Louis Armstrong were like the two jazz trumpeters of the 1920s, and he was from Davenport. So there's a little museum dedicated to him there. So I checked that out, and then I found a couple of breweries in town, got some good food, got a little flight of beer, and just walked along the river there and had a good old time in Davenport, Iowa.
That sounds like a hell of a 34, man, even if you were in Davenport. I mean, Davenport is for lovers. That's what I hear. So that's awesome. And Matthew, when you hear Matt talk about kind of his philosophy on if he is in a concrete jungle, finding something to do, does that give you any ideas, anything that you might want to try? Are you a museum guy or anything like that?
Oh, definitely. I'm waiting for my next restart down by Houston somewhere because I'd love to go to the NASA down there.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a museum or what, but I have a friend that lives in Houston. So next time I go down there, I'm going to call him up and I won't have to get an Uber. We'll go to that museum. But if I go to a big city, usually I'm in recovery. I've been going to like this 12-step meeting. I'll have 7 years clean next month.
Oh, congratulations! That's awesome.
I go to a lot of. I used to go to a lot more, but I need to get back into it. But I go to meetings on the road, and I always enjoy doing that. Sometimes you never know when you pop in and they're having some event, a barbecue or something like that, a fish fry. You always meet people there, and if something's going on that that they think I should be, I'd want to know about, I can hear it there.
Sure.
So
that's cool. I will say this, my wife is a recovering alcoholic, and in recovery, she's over 2 years sober right now, and I will tell you that the recovery community is an amazing thing. It doesn't matter what avenue you take, whether you're AA or 12-step or Refuge or any of these different programs. She has found some amazing support communities within these programs, and she's thriving right now, man. I got to tell you, and I can't tell you how happy I am to hear that you're 7 years out of it and still doing well and still finding a meeting every now and then. That's really cool, Matthew.
Oh yeah, congratulations to her. It's a big thing, and that's exactly it. Any city in this country I've been to at a meeting, I walk in and just feel at home. Everybody's always welcoming, and it's like a family away from your family.
That's really cool. Well, maybe someday out in the future we can do a podcast episode, because I know you're not the only liquid driver that is actively in his recovery, and so maybe someday we can do an episode where we can talk about that a little bit and get the word out to anybody else that might need a little bit of support there, because as you said, it's a super supportive community, and I just think it's so cool when people finally make that decision and get themselves out of the rut, man. So again, congratulations on 7 years, and keep going strong out there.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it. And I don't plan on going back. It's kind of like everything has changed the past 7 years. I mean, my life's so much better than it was.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you're here working at Liquid Trucking, so things could be worse, man.
I love it. Yeah,
yeah, things could be a lot worse.
I think one thing about Liquid Trucking, I've driven for several different, carriers over the years. I've been driving trucks mostly locally, but over the roads, I'm 50 years old, and I started when I was 21 driving a Coke truck. This is definitely the best company I've ever worked for. I love it here. They're gonna have to chase me out. Have to get rid of someday when I can't even crawl up in the truck anymore. I'm still gonna be trying to figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, they're going to try to put you on the driving simulator and get you training people at that point, because then they can leave you in a lazy boy, right?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, glad to hear that is the case for you, Matthew, excuse me. And it's great company. I feel very privileged to be a kind of a part of it. You guys, you drivers and all the office staff there at Liquid have made me feel so at home. And I'm just a weird podcast host that just kind of showed up and started making episodes. I can't imagine how you get treated as somebody that's actually a paid member of the staff. I'm sure it's even better than what I've been treated, and that's amazing, because you don't get that everywhere. And it's something that whenever it comes up here on the podcast, I like to take a moment and recognize it, because there's a lot of people out there working jobs that they hate, and to not be one of those people, that's a good day. And, I think Liquid's got a lot of those drivers out there. I know that, Matt, you are very fond of sending me pictures of the vacations that you take that were purchased with money that you made at Liquid. That's always the way that you like to represent them to me. So I know that you're also a very happily employed Liquid driver out there as well.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy my daily life because I get a lot of time out here to see the scenery as I drive, listen to books and music and podcasts, and then I enjoy my resets like we've been talking about. And then I live on the truck, so I save up my money, and that definitely makes it viable for me to take some vacations. And Liquid Trucking's always been good about giving me the time to disappear here and there to Utah or Scotland or all the random places I've gone.
That's awesome. Well, listen, fellas, I don't want to keep you on here for a whole lot longer. There was one thing that really piqued my interest, and I apologize for the way that this is going to kind of break up the flow of our conversation, but I want to ask you guys a couple of questions about something you both mentioned, which is the road noise. Both of you mentioned places that are away from the freeway to get away from the road noise a little bit because you're hearing it all day, every day. Talk to me a little bit, and Matthew, I'll start here with you. If you can't get away from the freeway, let's say you got to park at a truck stop that is right on it. Like, I'm thinking of the one on Interstate 84 in Troutdale, Oregon, right there on the Columbia River. You could throw a rock from the parking lot and hit the freeway. It's as loud as hell there. Do you have trouble sleeping when you're in a place like that, or is it just trouble disconnecting? What about that noise is it that drives you nuts, Matthew?
It's same thing as when you get a nice parking spot in between two flatbeds, and then at some point during the night, one of them leaves and a noisy reefer backs into you. That reefer is right beside your sleeper. But I've gotten, it used to bother me. I've gotten better about being able to sleep through it. I also I usually put like a playlist on YouTube of just different documentaries. I like the space, I like the universe type stuff, and I like learning about that. So I'll find a playlist with a bunch of documentaries about the universe, and my plan is just to learn while I sleep.
I like that. I like that.
Wake up with these weird facts in my head.
I tried that in college, and it got me C's, and that C's get degrees, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. That's right.
Well, how about you, Matt? Do you struggle at all with the noise if you can't park in a nice quiet spot? Is that always a priority for you to find a quiet parking spot?
I do try. There's a whole art form to finding a parking spot where you're not facing directly into the hot sun and hopefully some quiet neighbors. I've learned that drop trailers are your best friends, If you can park next to just an empty trailer that like no truck is attached to, there's a chance it'll stay quiet,
Okay.
But unless somebody comes in the middle of the night and hooks up to it, which sometimes happens. But
Right.
I also have a fan that I use for white noise, and sometimes that helps. But I agree with Matthew about like how he likes to get out and walk, and there's a lot of science behind that. The Japanese have a whole thing, I'll go deep here for a quick second, called Shinrin Yoku, and it translates as forest bathing, and it's been a long-standing practice of the Japanese, and scientists have studied it, and when you're out in nature, even for just a few minutes, like your cortisol levels drop, which is like your stress, your epinephrine levels drop, serotonin goes up, which relaxes you. Like they can actually tell biochemical changes, your heart rate and your pulse decrease, just from a few minutes of being in nature. So I'll try to do that on my reset, or if I've been kind of not having good luck with that, then on my break, I'll stop at a rest area and just try to walk under the trees. And it's all about like sight, smell, texture, just taking in nature through as many senses as you can. And just even that, a few minutes under the trees in a rest area can make a big difference in how you feel.
That's really interesting, Matt. Thank you. Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, that's exactly. I've made it a habit over the past couple of years. I get up an hour before I need to start, and I go for an hour walk every morning. And those days when I wake up and it's raining or snowing out and freezing, and I don't get a walk in that morning, boy, I can just feel my, especially a couple days in a row, I can just feel the anxiety building up, and it feels like there's a spring in my chest as it's tightening. And but once I get back out and start walking again, it seems like all that just kind of goes away.
Yeah, just melts it right away. And I don't work as high stress of job as you guys do, so I won't relate to this perfectly. But what I will say is when I'm out hunting, I've taken some top 5 all-time naps out in the middle of the woods for no reason. I'll be so jacked up and so excited because I'm finally out there. There's so much prep and so much. I drive 7+ hours to go on these hunts with back at home where I'm from, and there's so much that goes into it, and I'm so jazzed when I get out there. And the first stump that I sit on and that sunlight hits my face early in the morning, I could take a 5-hour nap right there, no question. So I have no trouble believing the Japanese, Matt, in that there's some science behind it for sure. Because why did I go from just being as excited as I've been in 3 months to peacefully napping on a log like 15 minutes later? It doesn't make any sense in my head, except for the fact that that's just what outdoors can do for you, man. It's going to release that stress a little bit. And I think that goes back to when we all lived out there, or I guess our ancestors did.
Yeah, I was going to say we evolved in what we now call quote unquote nature, which is just the world as it is. And so, yeah, our systems are geared to be towards that, and we can adapt and we can deal with other environments like freeways, but there's just something really good about being in a natural environment. Your body responds. Being there, just walking slowly around is helpful, but if you can combine that with some exercise, like Matthew's talking about, then that's like doubly good for you,
Heck yeah. I love it, guys. Well, thank you both for coming on here and sharing with me some of your favorite spots. And before I let you go, I want to do 2 things here. I'm going to give you both the chance to say any final thoughts that you might have. But can we recap those spots just in case some drivers weren't taking notes when we first went through them? Matthew, you brought us up a couple of spots that you really like to go. Can you tell us where those are one more time?
Okay, my favorite one is Yellowstone Truck Stop in Livingston, Montana. It's right off of I-90. The Loves in Parachute, Colorado. It's between Grand Junction and Denver. And I think the other one I talked about was the Loves in Holland, Michigan.
Yep. Awesome. And how about you, Matt? What were the ones that you brought up that were your favorites?
So I was talking about the Loves in Low Moor, Virginia, and then staying at the Fire Rock Casino just east of Gallup, New Mexico, and going to the Red Rock Park. And then, yeah, some of my favorite cities, just Antonio, New Orleans, Flagstaff, places like that.
Davenport.
Davenport. That's true. It goes without saying almost,
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's no Cedar Rapids, but it's a pretty nice city. No.
But if you have to, you can get by.
We love all of our people from Iowa out there, just having a little bit of fun here. I know there's a bunch of you that listen to this, so thanks for playing along. Matthew, any final thoughts for the drivers out there that might be listening? I'm going to give you that chance here in just a second. And while you're thinking about that, Just want to say thank you so much for bringing up this idea. I mean, we've been talking for almost 35 minutes here just about cool places to take your 34 and cool things to do while you're doing it. So obviously a very good suggestion. We appreciate it. Please, any final thoughts you might have for anybody listening?
Oh, I appreciate you having me on. The only thing I can think of is if there are drivers out there that have somebody, especially that are like off the highway or something, out of the way, truck stops, good place to take a restart. I'd encourage them to get with you and maybe have a part 2 down the road, and I can have some more places to check out.
Absolutely. You're just going to get your notepad out and take notes on that episode. I can already tell. That's great. Well, we will definitely do that, Matthew, because it's a great subject, and I know that we're only scratching the surface of cool places to stop out there. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast for your first time. You did awesome. Matt, anything else you want to say to anybody that might be listening before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to encourage people, see it as like a good challenge or puzzle wherever you end up for your reset. Find something interesting, use apps, look around, see what's around. You get out of your truck, you get some exercise, maybe you learn something, you get some good food, maybe have some conversation with some locals, which I end up doing quite a lot. Just make the most of it. We spend enough time alone and sitting in the truck, get out of your truck and go see what's around,
Sage advice there from a traveler, and that's what we've called him on this podcast just a couple episodes ago. Now that I don't have to address you guys in tandem anymore, thank you, Matt Langford, and thank you, Matt MacKellar. I appreciate you guys putting up with my confusion at the names and just for being here. You guys are both awesome. Stay safe out there, okay? We'll get you both back on again real soon.
All right. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, appreciate it. Likewise, Matt.
Great stuff there from both of our Matts, talking about where they like to take their 34s. I hope that some of you guys were taking notes there because I know that Matt MacKellar is going to go check out the places that Matt Langford brought up, and vice versa. Matt Langford's going to go check out the places that Matt MacKellar brought up, and that's something that you guys all can do. I mean, get in touch with some of the other drivers out there, see what they're up to, or you could just tune into the podcast. I mean, it's here. I'm here. You might as well listen to it. Thank you to Matt Langford again and Matt MacKellar. Thanks to Matt Langford for the suggestion and for coming on the show. And thanks to Matt MacKellar for coming on the show. Uncle Traveling Matts, if you will. I was doing just a little bit of research for this episode, and I didn't find a lot on this, but I did find a Reddit thread here that I wanted to read some responses to you guys from because it actually happens to be local for me and for you out there in Nebraska. And I'm in Oregon, as we've said before, so how does that work? Well, listen to this. The Reddit post was done by a guy named DRay1469, and he says, what's the best and worst places you have done a 34-hour reset? And he shares his with us first. He says, Jubit's truck stop in Portland, Oregon was one of the absolute best. Lots to do, plenty of services nearby, and the hotel has a trucker side where the rooms are a bit smaller and priced well. Now, that surprises me a bit. I know that the Jubit's in Portland is one of the more popular ones. I also know that it's not very far away from the Flying J out there in Troutdale, which is a suburb of Portland, which is widely considered one of the worst anywhere out here in the Pacific Northwest. You don't want to be there. Lots of crime, not very much parking. It's just it showed up on that list of truck stops by state that you don't want to go to. So I find it interesting, but I do know that Jubit's up there in Portland it's a pretty well liked place. If there's a good one up there in that area, it's that Jubit's for sure. Okay, so that's the local part for Marcus. How's it local to Liquid? Well, check this out. Worst place I ever took a 34 was in North Platte, Nebraska. Trailer got hit, and I had to wait until Monday to get it repaired. There was nothing there but a Loves and a Pilot/Flying J. Listen, I've been out there to your guys' terminal. I've been around Plattsmouth a little bit. I have not been to North Platte. I don't know if that's like a suburb or just a bedroom community, or if that's just, if he's saying it's Plattsmouth, it's just on the north end of Plattsmouth. I'm not sure. But But I didn't get any of that when I was out there. I got nothing but friendly people. I can see how maybe it's a small community and there's not a lot to do. In fact, I know it's a small community because we did the 500-year flood episode on this podcast, which, by the way, one of our best episodes. If you haven't checked it out, episode 23, by the way, the 500-year flood. Such a good episode. What I found out doing that episode is that the entire Plattsmouth community there kind of around where Liquid's terminal is came together as not just like a community, but like a full-on town full of people helping everybody out. So it is a small place. That doesn't mean that there's nothing to do there. You just might have to venture out a little bit further. I think old D-Ray 1469 here maybe just he didn't venture out away from where he had to park his truck to find the good part of Plattsmouth. But I thought that was interesting. That Jubitz is just a couple hours north of me, and of course you guys are right there in Plattsmouth. So let's read through some of the comments here to see, man, where was my cough button on that one? Did you guys hear that? We're going to see what some people have to say about where they like or dislike spending their 34s. This guy says the best for a 34 is Nashville because I love music. There's always live music, and I have some friends that live there. Obviously, that's not everybody, but Nashville and live music go hand in hand. He says, I'm currently on my worst in Omaha with a busted radiator. Why are you guys going after Nebraska so hard when your damn truck breaks down there? Like, it's in the center of the country. It shouldn't be surprising that you're going to break down in Omaha once in a while. You got to go through it. I don't think it's Omaha's fault that you break down, and there's plenty to do in Omaha. I've been there. I've been hanging out in Omaha like 3 or 4 times now. I'd never been before I started this job, but I'm like an experienced Omaha tourist at this point in time. Go down and try some of that butter brickle ice cream at that ice cream place. I don't remember what it's called right now, but it's been in like every magazine in the world, and they've got this, I think it's like cinnamon butter brickle or something. Look, you got to go down there and try it. It's kind of close to the baseball stadium down there, I think. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. The worst, this guy says, this is from Zaitukin. His worst was Buffalo, New York at a Schneider drop lot. The closest bathroom was half a mile away at a gas station that was not open 24/7. I did a bobtail to the Buffalo Zoo while there, though. That sounds kind of cool. The guy says, no clue on the best. I'm happy as long as there's a bathroom for me to use. Yeah, this guy doesn't sound very hard to please, but he also sounds like he doesn't like very many things. If the most important thing about where you stop is that there is a bathroom within quick, short walking distance, I might even say emergency walking distance is what this guy sounds like, maybe you should go get your bowels checked out. I mean, again, it's not Omaha's fault. How about this guy? He says, good for you going on an adventure. I was 25 years over the road, and I could count on one hand how many times I took time to stop and look around. Yeah, that's what we're talking about with this episode. Like, this is a beautiful country, and it's a very diverse country. When you think about the geography and the topography of this nation, I mean, I'm sitting here in the temperate rainforest just outside of the Cascade Range and the coastal mountain range, and all I have to do is drive about an hour east of me, and I'm in alpine desert territory. Like, it's very diverse just in my state, and it's like that across all the states. So you should look around once in a while. Why not? This guy here, his name is Jimmy 2. He says, the Omaha Zoo is amazing, ranked as one of the world's top 5 zoos. There's some good love for Nebraska. Thank you, somebody, for giving Nebraska its just due. He says, I've also gone to the Lee Richardson Zoo in Garden City, Kansas, the Nibee Zoo outside Davenport, Iowa, and the Oklahoma Aquarium outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. So those are 3 good places you could go check out on a 34. I don't know if you're into it. Sometimes zoos are really cool. Other times they're kind of depressing. I think that depends on how the animals are cared for there. I just, last Christmas, took my wife to the Portland Zoo, and they do a thing called Zoo Lights there, where they have all these huge Christmas light displays, and you walk through the entire zoo, and all the animals are, put away for the night, and all of the exhibits are decorated. And there is only one animal that's actually out during that, and it was the elephants. And they had them in this big enclosure, and they have this big hollowed-out tree in the middle that they shove grass and treats in, and the elephants get in there with their trunks. It was really cool. I have, however, been to a couple of zoos in my day where you walk to the exhibit and the animals look like they're either high or incredibly depressed. and that's hard for me to watch. But aquariums are another thing that's kind of cool. A lot of times you get pretty happy experiences there because fish are swimming, and that's what fish do. I know we had some issues with Free Willy and that whole deal, but at the same time, it's pretty cool over here in Oregon. We've got the Oregon Coast Aquarium. It's so cool. They do the deep sea exhibit every now and then. I'm rambling again. Anyway, more places for you to spend your 34 or avoid. How about this one? Manico 2109 says the worst is the Pilot in Memphis. That place was a dump. And then Memphis 10 Jason commented, it's closed now. To which Manico 2109 replied, good riddance. So that's good. Didn't really solve anything there, but good. South Dallas, TA. Lizards knocking at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. It's an effing pit. Okay, so that's another place we don't want to be. How about this one? Limeride says, the best is at a roofing shipper, John's Manville specifically, in Toole, Utah. I hauled ass to get there from Memphis, Tennessee, and beat all the weather. They unloaded me in the morning. I moved to the shoulder on their driveway and slept for about 20 hours. Woke up the next morning, drank some coffee, watched the sun come up in a beautiful area, and then went right back to sleep. Got a reload from them that afternoon. It was glorious. That sounds nice. I mean, the guy didn't even really do anything other than catch up on sleep, which it sounds like he desperately needed. He also says, my worst is after a night of heavy socializing at the Horny Toad in Denton, Texas. I ended up at someone's home in Oklahoma. This was well before Uber Lyft, and it took me effing forever to find a ride back to that TA. Well, careful out there. Heavy socializing when needing to get back to your truck is probably not the wisest idea, but we know that guy's not a liquid driver, so who cares about what kind of weird shit he's getting into. And then finally here from Diaz the Nut, he says the absolute best 34-hour or more like forced 72-hour reset I ever had was in Tallahassee, Florida. It also helped that I had family there at the time who I hadn't seen in years, so I got to spend time with them, but I also took the opportunity to spend one of those days in Wakula Springs Park, which was nice to get some time in nature, along with sightseeing and normal human interaction on a cheap guided boat tour. Uber there was really cheap as well, so I got downtown easily and checked out the state capitol. That's an adventure right there. That's the type of stuff that Matt and Matt were talking about. It's like, hey, you're in a spot, you've got an opportunity. Do you want to seize it? Seize it. If you don't want to seize it, catch up on some sleep. But seizing that opportunity is what this whole thing's about. When you're talking about that work-life balance thing, that's something that's really hard for a truck driver. So take some time outside of your truck every now and then and just poke around. You never know what you might find. Hey, we kind of, tongue-in-cheek a little bit bashed on Davenport, Iowa, but it sounds like there's a really nice zoo up there in Davenport, Iowa. So maybe that's where you're itching to get to. Maybe you're itching to get out of there. Well, I hear there's a nice zoo in Omaha as well, okay? There's plenty of stuff to check out. If you're over here in my neck of the woods, I might recommend right off the freeway. There's not great truck parking there, but there is a little bit, and that's Multnomah Falls. I think it's a state park, Multnomah Falls State Park. It's right off Interstate 84 on the eastbound side, right along the Columbia River. You can't find a more beautiful interstate to drive on, if you want my opinion. The Columbia River Gorge stretch between Portland and, Hermiston, Umatilla area in Oregon, on either side of the river, by the way, because there is a 2-lane highway on the Washington side that is more of kind of like a scenic route. And, of course, there's a replica Stonehenge over there as well. There's also the Maryhill Museum, which was a castle that some dude built for, like, a princess that he wanted to bring over here, but she died, so they turned it into a museum and put a bunch of peacocks around it. I'm not joking. I know that sounds wild, but it is the truth. And that's all right there in the Columbia River Gorge, plus some of the best vistas that you'll ever see spreading out in front of you. But Multnomah Falls is not that far out of Portland. And it's cool. There's a bridge that they've built about halfway up the waterfall, so you can go stand about halfway up the waterfall and watch it. And you will get wet if you're up there. Of course, it's normally raining in that area of the world, but if it's not raining, you will get misted a little bit by the waterfall, which is really cool. And it's a gigantic waterfall. But the one thing that it will keep your eyes out for is you see that huge one, Multnomah Falls, and you're like, oh, well, that's probably the one. They built a state park around it and made it all exciting. There's probably 30 more waterfalls along that stretch. You got to be keeping your eye out for them, which is a little hard to do when you're watching the road. But it's very scenic through there. So I don't recommend you spend a 34 at Multnomah Falls, but if you're like at that Jubitz in Portland and you've got a ton of time, you've got a day plus, take an Uber out there, enjoy that for a little bit, and then get back to your truck. You will thank me after you've seen it. But hey, we're always looking for other recommendations. I know there's drivers out there listening right now. They're thinking, man, I've got 10 different spots that none of those guys even touched on. That's great. Send them to me. I would like to read them. I want to give all of you drivers the same opportunity to either get on here and share or just share what you've got, because why not? I mean, let's get everybody a bunch of cool places to spend their 34, and that way nobody ever gets bored or has to stop at that weird Denton, Texas TA where the guy ended up in Oklahoma. I don't know where Denton, Texas is. My guess is it's close to Oklahoma. If it's not, that's an even wilder story, and I would like to hear how it wrapped up for that guy. But anyway, that's going to pretty much wrap it up today. I don't have a lot more to talk about. Again, thanks to Matt Langford and Matt MacKellar for bringing us all of their awesome places they like to spend their 34. We'll hope that you guys picked up some hints and some tricks there, and you're going out and finding adventure on your 34 if you so desire it. I'm Marcus. That's it for me. We'll see you next week right here on the Liquid Trucking Podcast. Until then, stay safe and keep the shiny side up.
Thanks for tuning in and being the gold standard of drivers on the road. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and tune in next week for another episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast.